Good afternoon, everyone. We are Group 2, and we are here to report the analysis of primary sources, namely the Philippine political cartoons, the Filipino grievances against Governor Wood, and Corazon Aquino's speech to the U.S. Congress.
Philippine political cartoon. It focuses on important issues such as social justices, corruption, and governance. It's in the time periods of independence. Its function as a visual critique and using cartoons and sarcasm. Its purpose is to convey powerful themes and messages. Next slide. The first one is police corruption and racism. A 1917 cartoon called Is the Police Force Bribe is about a Filipino being bribed by the Chinese people to escape this. Next slide. The second one is the housing crisis and economic inequality. It's about the post-World War I, Manila experienced significant population growth leading to severe housing shortages and escalating rents. Governor General Francis R. Harrison's attempt to reform were seen as inadequate in failing to address the deeper issues of economic inequality. Next slide. The third one is the critique of Catholic Church. Nationalists like Vicente Soto often use cartoons to critique the Catholic Church influence in the West. A 1920 cartoon from the Independent called While the Priest Lives Alone in the Big Building shows a priest's large, luxurious residence with overcrowded public areas nearby. This emphasizes the disparity between the church's wealth and the living conditions of ordinary Filipinos. Next slide. The fourth one is the legislative corruption and violence. The American colonial government initially made strides in improving public health, particularly in the controlling malaria and other tropical diseases. By the 1920s, the quality of these efforts has declined, leading to renewed outbreaks. A 1921 cartoon in the pre-press called Where the Mosquito is King satires the municipal board's inefficiency in controlling the mosquito population. Next slide. The next one is the general corruption and decline of governance. Throughout the 1930s, the pre-press increasingly criticized the overall governance in Manila, depicting the city as rife with corruption, crime, and mismanagement by using cartoons. Called Why the Aparcero Rebels and A New Wrinkle on the Art of TV. It reflects growing public frustration with both local and colonial administrations capturing a period of significant political and social upheaval. Okay na. Next slide.
Taking a break from the report on the primary sources, we're going to present to you now the activity of the caricatures or the cartoons that we made. So for the first cartoon that we made, we showed shed light to the political issue of Alice Guo. So as you can see in our image, she is drawn here holding a lot of faces, which symbolizes her lies and her presentation or words where she uh said a lot of lies to the people to advance her own agenda instead of helping the government of the Philippines. So next slide, please. Next is the economic issue where the President Marcos Jr. So ever since he sit on the power, there are a lot of economic issues that President Marcos Jr. brought on the Philippines. So the cases where he embezzles money and uh, also the jeepney strikeout, the jeepney strikeout that he caused, which would evidently affect the economy of the Philippines. So next slide, please.
The final cartoon is about Amadeus Fernando Pagente, whose drag name is Pura Luca Vega, who dressed as Jesus Christ and performed a rock rendition of the Lord's Prayer. This issue sparked because, as we know, that imitation can be the best form of appreciation, not in the case of mockery, which is why he was arrested and sparked a fierce debate about free speech and protection for members of the LGBTQ community, while also debating that the Philippines is a deeply Christian country and the Catholic Church maintains significant influence both in daily life and politics. Next slide.
Filipino grievances against Governor Wood. This document is about a formal protest by Filipino leaders against the actions by Major General Leonard Wood, who was a Governor General back then in the Philippines during the American colonial period. In this document, it criticizes Wood for taking away Filipino self-rule and changing policies that were supposed to help the Philippines become independent. Filipino leaders formally protested against Major General Leonard Wood for undermining Filipino self-governance during the American colonial period. Wood blocked essential laws, usurped legislative powers, invalidated the Board of Control, and interfered with the judiciary. His actions contradicted U.S. promise of self-government, caused American-Filipino tensions, and harmed the Philippine economy. Next slide. Events. First, formal protest by Filipino leaders. The document is a formal protest against Major General Ronald Wood during the American colonial period in the Philippines. Second, criticism of Wood's actions. Wood is criticized for undermining Filipino self-rule and altering policies aimed at Philippine independence. Third, Governor General Wood interfered significantly with Filipino autonomy by obstructing essential laws and imposing his conditions on legislations. He nullified the Board of Control and attempted to take over its functions via an executive order. Furthermore, Wood meddled in judicial operations, influencing processes and outcomes, which hindered the legislative power and judicial independence of the Filipino government. Fourth, contradiction to U.S. promises. Wood's actions went against the principles of self-government and violated U.S. commitments to the Filipinos. Last, negative consequences. His policies caused tensions between Americans and Filipinos and negatively impacted the Philippine economy.
So before we start with Aquino's speech, let us first look into its historical context. The Philippines was under the martial law for 14 years, from 1972 to 1986, under the authoritarian rule of President Ferdinand Marcos. This period was marked by human rights abuses, corruption, and economic instability. Senator Benigno Aquino Jr., the husband of Corazon Aquino, was assassinated in 1983, which sparked widespread protests and calls for democracy. In February 1986, the People Power Revolution, also known as the EDSA Revolution, took place, leading to the overthrow of Marcos and the installation of Corazon Aquino as the first female president of the Philippines. Next slide, please. So let us now move on to the key points of the speech. Firstly, Aquino contemplates the loss of her spouse. The murder of Ninoy sparked a significant public outcry against the tyrannical rule, catalyzing a united movement among Filipinos for liberation. Despite the severe oppression during Marcos's regime, Aquino highlighted the enduring presence of democracy through her husband and other rebels' efforts. They remained committed to democratic values even in difficult times, laying the groundwork for the people's eventual freedom. Aquino recounted the critical snap elections of 1986 tainted by corruption and aggression. Aquino's remarkable backing from the Filipino populace highlighted their dedication to democratic principles. The ensuing People Power Revolution showcased the strength of peaceful protest and their united desire for democratic reform. Next slide, please. As the president, Aquino emphasized her dedication to peacefully retaining power and reconstructing democratic institutions. She highlighted the significance of reconciling and unifying the nation, pursuing peaceful resolutions to the communist uprising, and tackling the socio-economic difficulties passed down from the dictatorship. Aquino requested support from the U.S. Congress, underscoring the strategic significance of the Philippines in the Pacific and the ethical obligation to aid a country that had achieved its independence through nonviolent methods. She stressed the need for financial aid to address the substantial foreign debt accumulated by the prior administration and to help the Philippines attain enduring peace and progress. Next, next slide, please. As a primary source, Corazon C. Aquino's speech before the United States Congress on September 18, 1986, serves as a critical primary source within the Philippine history. It captures the People Power Revolution, which forced out Ferdinand Marcos and restored democracy in the Philippines. The speech was given at the same time as the events it talks about, specifically the aftermath of the People Power Revolution and the early period of Aquino's presidency. This document is an authentic record of the critical transition phase in Philippine history, moving from dictatorship to democratic governance. Next slide.
So now let's talk about the importance of primary source to the grand narrative of history. There are three main importance of the primary sources that we have talked about. First is the authenticity and detailed insights as seen in the political cartoons of the future. So the political cartoons showcase the state or the political and social issues present during the American colonial period. So these cartoons capture public sentiment and the resistance to the colonial rule, offering a vivid picture of the socio-political climate at the time. Next is the perspectives of key historical figures, using the Filipino grievances against Governor Leonard. So that primary source, such as the letters, petitions, and official documents, preserve the perspectives of Filipino leaders. So without it, we unknowledgeable on the status quo during the time of their reign. So next is the formation and validation of national identity. With Corazon Aquino's speech to the U.S. Congress in 1986, it encapsulates the Filipino struggle for democracy and the fall of the Marcos dictatorship. So this primary source validated the desire for democratic reforms and shaped international perceptions of the Philippines, highlighting key events that shaped the nation's identity and democratic values. Next slide na. Skip yan. Diyan na tayo sa part mo, Erica.
So, why is talking about all of these references relevant to what you're doing today, or what we have discussed? Well, its understanding is crucial because this is the lessons you may use in your future projects that concerns these topics we have discussed today and the primary sources that you will use and implement when it comes to your research projects. A few examples are on the screen now. So first off, political cartoons makes people aware. If you do not know already, this can spark any innovation, creativity, thoughts, and ideas from those who view these types of media. They can hold those in power accountable for any misdoings or wrongdoings that those in the authoritative government may have done. This can be used for criticizing them. Because in our times where social media is prevalent, it is way easier to have a viral political cartoon that is about our government of what they do good and not do good. Example is where Governor Wood can serve as a representation of what a leader should not do in these times, especially today, where, amid the situations in the Philippine government in the moment, former President Corazon Aquino heavily emphasizes strengthening U.S.-Philippine relations, and at this moment is what the majority of citizens want. There has just been a few examples of primary sources, a crucial component of research papers to this day.
Let us now continue discussing about the site of the first mass by discussing the evidence of Albo's logbook. The logbook provides a first-hand account of Magellan's expedition entry into the Philippine waters in 1521. The expedition sailed westward from the Ladrones Island, encountering several islands, including Omonhon, where they resupplied, and Leyte. They then sailed southwest to a small island called Mazawa, likely Limasawa, where they planted a cross and interacted with the locals. Albo's account focuses on navigational details and the geographical features of the island. Notably, it doesn't mention the first mass, only the planting of the cross. This detail and the geographical description support the claim that the first mass was held in Limasawa and not Butuan. Next. The evidence from Pigafetta talks about in terms of Antonio Pigafetta's evidence. Primo Baguio Intomo Almondo, which provides a detailed eyewitness narrative of the Magellan expedition, including the first mass in the Philippines, which was then divided into 5 key points in Pigafetta's testimony. 1 is Pigafetta's testimony regarding the route. 2 is the evidence of Pigafetta's map, the presence of 2 native kings, the events of 7 days at the island of Mazawa, and an argument from omission. Next. Regarding the evidence from the wait lang pre, nawala yung yung summary. The Pigafetta's map serves as a visual guide that offers valuable clues about the islands visited by the Magellan expedition. They depicted Samar, Omonhon, identified as the watering place of good omen, Mindanao with Butuan, and other locations. And most importantly, Mazawa. The map showing Mazawa places it as a small island of the southwestern tip of Leyte, Silion, east of Bohol, and near the passage between them. This position closely matches the actual location of the Mazawa Island. The map clearly differentiates Mazawa from Butuan, which is located on a separate, larger island, Mindanao. This means that Pigafetta's map strongly support the identification of Mazawa as the Mazawa and rule out Butuan due to its distinct location on Mindanao. Next. Next one. The presence of 2 kings during the Magellan expedition visit to Mazawa provides further evidence for its location. 1 king was the ruler of Mazawa, who later guided the expedition to Cebu, and the other was the king of Butuan, who described as the most sensitive man in the region. Pigafetta mentions that both kings would meet for hunting on Mazawa, confirming that Butuan was a separate island and not the same as Mazawa. Next. The 7 days at Mazawa gives detailed account of the 7 days spent on Mazawa Island. That leaves no room for a trip to Bhutan for the first mass. The events include initial contact with the natives, an exchange of gifts, Pigafetta's overnight stay with the king, and the preparation for the Easter Sunday Mass. The Mass was held on Mazawa, followed by the planting of the cross on the ISU. Magellan consulted the 2 kings about where to find more supplies and decided to go Cebu. The remaining days were spent assisting with the harvest. Next. Next, bro. A notable omission in Pigafetta's account supports the argument that Mazawa was not Butuan. Despite Butuan being a riverine settlement, Pigafetta makes no mention of a river during their stay at Mazawa. This is unusual considering that later accounts of Butuan by survivors of Magellan's expedition and members of Legazpi's expedition prominently feature the river. This omission strongly suggests that Mazawa was an island surrounded by sea, not a river like Butuan. Next. In short, the evidences provided by Albo and Pigafetta's evidence align in describing the route and Mazawa's location, as well as Mazawa's coordinates match the Mazawa's location. This also means that the itinerary shows no visit to Butuan during the initial phase of the expedition, strongly implying that the claim that the first Mass in the Philippines was celebrated on the Mazawa Island and not in Butuan. Next. The Legazpi expedition provides further confirmation of Mazawa's location. Seeking to visit Mazawa, Legazpi consulted natives from Caballan village in southeastern Leyte. This expedition efforts to locate Mazawa, guided by locals and their clear distinction between Mazawa and Butuan, further solidified the evidence that Mazawa was not Butuan, but a separate island near Leyte, most likely Mazawa. Next. The geography of Mazawa must mainly focus around the geographical features of the Mazawa, which strongly supported in its identification as the Mazawa described in historical accounts. The island's location, terrain, and resources made it a logical and suitable stopping point for Magellan's expedition. The discrepancy between the historical name Mazawa and the current name Limazawa remain unexpected, but the local name Mazowa hints at a connection to the past. Next. Then why the Butuan tradition? The reading discusses the origins of the Butuan tradition, which incorrectly places the first Mass in the Philippines at Butuan instead of Limazawa. It also suggests several reasons for this misconception, one of which is the possibility of errors in the primary source, also leading to an error in the secondary source. Historians may have misinterpreted Magellan's encounter with the Raja at Mazawa as evidence of a visit to Butuan. Overall, the reading argues that the Butuan tradition, while long-standing, is based on misconception and misinterpretation of historical accounts. The evidence points to Limazawa as the true location of the first Mass in the Philippines. Next. This section discusses the importance of Butuan in terms of the claim of Butuan being the site of the first Mass being refuted. Rejecting the claim of Butuan as the site of the first Mass does not diminish the city's historical and cultural significance because Butuan was a prominent pre-colonial kingdom, evident from Pigafetta's description of its wealthy and lord king and the gold artifacts found in the region. Next. Lastly, this section discusses how we go back to where we started in terms of the Butuan Monument, which was erected in 1872, claiming it to be the site of the first Mass in the Philippines. However, this claim has been proven to be incorrect. The monument near the riverbank led to its submersion and eventual relocation. A petition in 1953 sought to restore the monument, prompting to review by the National Historical Committee. The National Historical Committee agreed to rehabilitate the monument but removed the inscription claiming Butuan as the first site of the first Mass. The reading concludes by emphasizing the importance of preserving the monument as a historical artifact, while acknowledging the inscription's inaccuracy. It highlights the need to correct the historical error and recognize Limazawa as the true site of the first Mass.
Now let us talk about the Thomas Bobby Gomez's back. Previous slide, please. Let's talk about Tommy Bobby Gomez's fact or opinion paper about the first mass in Limasawa, which presents some interesting facts or like various points. Now, the National Historical Institute's claim was that the first Christian mass was in Limasawa on March 31, 1521. Well, he stated that the NHI or the National Historical Institute may have never read or dismally misinterpreted Pigafetta's account because Pigafetta's Chronicles does not confirm that it was the first ever mass in the Philippines. Now, Thomas says that the first mass was likely in Nomonhon, which was now Guiuan, Eastern Samar, and that Magellan's fleet stayed in Nomonhon from March 16 to 25, 1521. While Pigafetta's Chronicles was silent on masses in Homonhon despite the stay over 2 Sundays, including Palm Sunday. The Homonhon deserves recognition as a site of the first mass, and advocacy needed from the provincial government of Eastern Samar Municipality and Catholic Diocese of Borongan. While to add more on the point that Pigafetta didn't write all masses, according to Pigafetta's Chronicles, only 5 instances of masses recorded during Magellan's voyage. Now, the masses served as both a spiritual and moral boosting purpose for Magellan's crew during the journey. So it's kind of hard to believe that they didn't have a mass during Palm Sunday. Now, this raises questions about unrecorded masses. Meanwhile, the presence of 3 priests suggests regular masses are more likely. Next slide. Now, it is important to note that the author, while is an avid history enthusiast, is not an academically credentialed historian. So he welcomes critique and acknowledges potential fallibility in his opinions, though in his paper does present some valid facts. And the evolution of the historical claim, historians nowadays remember that Limasawa, instead of writing Limasawa as the first ever mass, they instead use references like first recorded mass or first Easter Sunday mass in the Philippines.
Actually, give me a second. Di ba si Irvan yun dito sa part na to?
May part ba siya?
Ito,
Or si Aaron?
itong 2 slide.
Okay,
Ay,
may part si Irvan.
Hindi, si Aaron dito yun sa Anisa Duday.
Wait, message.
Sa Zubu ako, sa Zubu.
Alam ko dito siya sa first 2 slides si Irvan. Tapos ako dito sa...
Mabilis kasi ako sa yung nakasulat sa script natin.
Hindi, bigla na lang natin kasi dinagdag si Irvan. Basta.
If wala siya, let's proceed to the next slides lang muna.
Ito na lang, dito. Okay. So pwede na.
Yeah.
Okay, so proceeding with the next slides. On March 28, 1521, Antonio Pigafetta went overboard and was rescued by one of the Captain General's slaves. Antonio and the slave had plans to meet with the king. Then they arrived to see the king in a balanghay, a larger boat than the baroto that is usually used by monarchs. The king resided on the island called Butuan and Calagan. Next, the first mass on Butuan. The king consented to celebrate Easter by holding the first mass on Butuan Island in late March. Antonio Pigafetta, along with Ferdinand Magellan, attended the mass without their armor. Instead, they wore their best formal clothes. The mass introduced religious practices during the hour of the first mass were The first baptism of the villagers, adoring the cross with clasped hands and kneeling to worship the Lord.
The island of Cebu. The fleet led by Ferdinand Magellan arrived at the island of Cebu on April 7, 1521. They made contact with the native ruler. Magellan and Braho Humabon established a strategic alliance. Magellan is committed to teaching Christianity. Braho Humabon, his wife, and residents of the island were all successfully converted by him. Next. Battle of Mactan. Tension arises because certain rulers chose to resist the conversion, and not all locals are receptive to it. Tensions arise with some indigenous chiefs as a result of Magellan's insistence on Christian supremacy. On April 27, 1521, Magellan and his soldiers made an effort to defeat Lapu-Lapu's army on Mactan Island. Magellan was killed in the battle, causing the mission to have serious setback. Additionally, it also weakened the alliance with Braho Humabon.